Kids' parents might have done some of these things when they were young, but not many parents have written apps. First of all, I've been programming in multiple other programming languages to get the basics down, such as Python, C, Java, etc. And then Apple released the iPhone, and with it the iPhone software development kit. These days, students usually know a little bit more than teachers with the technology. So, sorry.
Come back up, Tom Suarez. After 11 years, welcome back to the TEDx Manhattan Beach stage. What did doing that TED Talk?
It sparked a lot of interest in that, in Star Education for bringing this app club in, but I also received thousands of emails from students and teachers, parents all over the world. But one of the craziest things that happened recently is when I started at Georgia Tech in 2018, there were actually a couple of students on campus who recognized me. And they came up to me and they said, are you that? I said, yes, sure. And they said, you were one of the reasons that I got into coding. And I was like, okay, cool, I guess.
I've always had a fascination for computers and technology, and I made a few apps for the iPhone, iPod Touch, and iPad. I'd like to share a couple with you today. My first app was a unique fortune teller called Earth Fortune that would display different colors of Earth depending on what your fortune was. And my favorite and most successful app is Bustin' Jeeber, which is a Justin Bieber whack-a-mole. I created it because a lot of people at school disliked Justin Bieber a little bit, so I decided to make the app. So I went to work programming it, and I released it just before the holidays in 2010. A lot of people ask me, how did I make these? A lot of times it's because the person who asked the question wants to make an app also. A lot of kids these days like to play games, but now they want to make them. And it's difficult because not many kids know where to go to find out how to make a program. I mean, for soccer, you could go to a soccer team. For violin, you could get lessons for a violin. But what if you want to make an app? And the kids' parents might have done some of these things when they were young, but not many parents have written apps. Where do you go to find out how to make an app? Well, this is how I approached it. This is what I did. First of all, I've been programming in multiple other programming languages to get the basics down, such as Python, C, Java, etc. And then Apple released the iPhone, and with it the iPhone software development kit. And the software development kit is a suite of tools for creating and programming an iPhone app. This opened up a whole new world of possibilities for me. And after playing with the software development kit a little bit, I made a couple apps. I made some test apps. One of them happened to be Earth Fortune, and I was ready to put Earth Fortune on the App Store. And so I persuaded my parents to pay the $99 fee to be able to put my apps on the App Store. They agreed, and now I have apps on the App Store. I've gotten a lot of interest and encouragement from my family, friends, teachers, and even people at the Apple Store, and that's been a huge help to me. I got a lot of inspiration from Steve Jobs. And I started an app club at school, and a teacher at my school is kindly sponsoring my app club. Any student at my school can come and learn how to design an app. This is so I can share my experiences with others. There's these programs called the iPad Pilot Program, and some districts have them. I'm fortunate enough to be part of one. A big challenge is, how should the iPads be used, and what apps should we put on the iPads? So we're getting feedback from teachers at the school to see what kind of apps they'd like. When we design the app and we sell it, it will be free to local districts and other districts that we sell to. All the money from that will go into the local ed foundations. These days, students usually know a little bit more than teachers with the technology. So, sorry. So this is a resource to teachers, and educators should recognize this resource and make good use of it. I'd like to finish up by saying what I'd like to do in the future. First of all, I'd like to create more apps, more games. I'm working with a third-party company to make an app. I'd like to get into Android programming and development. And I'd like to continue my app club and find other ways for students to share knowledge with others. Thank you.
如果你觉得这个世界对你不公，有可能是因为你太有才华。
Come back up, Tom Suarez. After 11 years, welcome back to the TEDx Manhattan Beach stage. I'm going to ask him a few questions. What did doing that TED Talk, what did it fire in you about developing apps for kids?
I mean, that TEDx talk opened up so many opportunities, and primarily the way that TEDx Manhattan Beach was structured to kind of publish that talk online and just all of the support. It was really amazing. Of course, I think it sparked a lot of interest in STAR Education for bringing this app club in, but I also received thousands of emails from students and teachers, parents all over the world who were saying, I'm interested in developing apps now, or can you send me some information on this particular mobile platform? And I was happy to do it, but it was starting to get to the point where there were way too many to respond to. But one of the craziest things that happened recently is when I started at Georgia Tech in 2018, there were actually a couple of students on campus who recognized me. And they came up to me and they said, are you that? I said, yes, sure. And they said, you were one of the reasons that I got into coding. And I was like, okay, cool, I guess. So it just shows the kind of impact that you can have. Just a quick 4 or 5 minute talk explaining what you're passionate about. Sometimes it really resonates.
Wow, what is it like to have sat here and watched yourself from 11 years ago? What was that? How do you personally reflect on that and see that?
Well, I'm certainly a lot younger in that. I mean, it starts,
yeah, you're getting really old.
I don't know, I think about like 13, 14-year-old, anyone who's 13 or 14 now has grown up after the launch of the iPhone SDK, and that's what makes me feel old. But I know I'm not allowed to say that at 23, so whatever.
What's next? What's the next big thing you'd like to tackle? Because you really, you got to build out that resume, Tom. What's the next thing?
Well, I think that the next big thing for me right now is spatial computing. We look at I'm fascinated by computer history. After that talk, of course, I got into Android development and others, but I really started looking at the history of computer science and learning about the pioneers in this field. And I think that there are, if we look at the major transitions of computing from the mainframe days, in fact, mainframe is not even the early computing, but it's really I would say the first general purpose computing that we had. Mainframe computing to the personal computer, to the transition from the CLI to the graphical user interface, to the internet and the World Wide Web, and now mobile. We've gone through all of these different transitions, and the part that I'm really excited to work on for the next 5, 10, 50 years, if it happens to take that long, which would be exciting if it takes that long because that means there are that many challenges to solve, is spatial computing, is actually taking these two-dimensional interfaces that we have either on a heads-up display like Google Glass or even on our mobile phones or on our laptops or desktops and extrapolating them out into 3D space. It's going to open up a lot of doors in human-computer interaction, I think. And honestly, there are so many concepts in computer science that have been tried and failed, and I think they're not in the engineering zeitgeist anymore, and that's fine, but I think too often Silicon Valley and really technologists in general want to be pushing forward so much that we actually forget about the incredible work that was done by computer science pioneers or pioneers of any field. And just because something didn't work, it doesn't mean it was poor execution or a bad idea. It may have meant the timing was wrong. It may have meant that some potentially inferior or, excuse me, more proprietary. I didn't mean to. I actually just have a tickle in my throat.
That's all right.
Inferior or more proprietary technology came out that actually trampled that, and so it doesn't necessarily mean that there are those, that it was a failure. And so I think it's one of the reasons that I believe that failure is just success in a different context. And I would encourage everyone to think about the concepts over time that have actually brought us here. And even if you're working on something that seems to be a failure right now, even if 5-10 years go by and it's like, oh, that project that I was working on, it was a complete failure, you may not realize how much you've inspired the next generation of whoever is in your field to do the thing and build something new.
搞笑诺贝尔奖，你听过没有？而且呢，今年已经是第32个第1届搞笑诺贝尔奖了。
搞笑诺贝尔奖，2022年第1届搞笑诺贝尔奖的经济学奖由3名意大利经济学家获得啊。他们论文的题目叫《天赋与运气、随机性在成功与失败中的作用》。他们就是用数学模型的推演得出一个非常惊人的结论，就是人的成功其实和能力、才华没有什么关系，完全是由运气决定。
Wow, this is so cool. And it was really inspiring because it's like one down, you know?